Okay, guys, we are live. My name is Dr. Sharnael Wolverton Sion. I'm here with my dear friend Craig, my co-host Craig. How you doing, Craig?
Very good, thank you. Very cold and wet here in the United Kingdom now. Absolutely drenched today. So, yeah, I don't know what it's like there, but autumn as well has really hit.
Awesome. Well, I mean, it did drop to 39 here, which is pretty crazy for Louisiana. But
Mhm.
yes, we're here and we're making it, and we are going to talk about something really fun. Actually, we're going to talk
I
about
love the title,
parasites.
by the way.
Yes, 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 yes. The exorcism of the parasites, because this is a fun topic, and it's the root of all disease. And this is near and dear to my heart for many reasons. And we're actually doing a campaign starting November the 7th for anyone who chooses to join us. There's no cost to be in it. You just have to order the products that we're doing. And today is the 2nd. So I choose to know if you would be able to get it in time. Probably if you order today, you'd still have time to make it. So the link should be all in here. But we have an expert here today. I mean, she knows her stuff, and I'm really excited to hear all that she has to share with us. Before we get started, please go to this drsharnael.com. You can get on the newsletter, see who all's coming up, who we've had in the past. We have almost 200 shows now, and lots of great content for you guys. And thank you for all the members who help us to make the show happen. We love you guys and we appreciate y'all. And if anyone chooses to be a member with us to help support us for production costs and all the stuff that goes behind the scenes that, believe me, I don't know how to do, so people help me. Craig and I are just we just show up, they do all the fun backstory stuff, but all the help helps us to get this kind of information out. So as
Right.
little as $4.99, y'all can be a member. And not only does that help us, but you get extra content, and we do giveaways and things like that. And we also have a monthly meeting that is like in your face Zoom. It's not like we're all here and we don't see you, but we actually see your faces, and we've gotten to know our members really well, and it's been fun. So if that's something you're interested in, check out the link there before you go. And also being live, you can just set a one-time gift to help too. I see Callie's on here and she's a member. Thank you so much. So without further ado, looks like my cat wanted to join us on the parasite thing. But how are you doing? Lexi Icenhower is here in the house. We're super excited.
Thanks for having me, you guys. I'm so happy about the kitty in the background. No, but thank you guys for having me. Today is literally the best day to have this talk. We are far enough from the next full moon for you guys to have this on your radar, get ready, whatever little protocol you choose to do. You can start ordering it now and you'll have it in time. But also, most of the country has big bags of candy in their house, and I know you parents are sneaking bites. So this is a time frame where I'm like, okay, let's use this sugar as bait, because we can use sugar as bait as long as we douse it with things that parasites don't like, and then they eat the bait and then they die. So we can utilize this time frame for good. And that goes for the rest of the holiday season when your family comes. And Thanksgiving is so important. Something about not inviting family because, scared of something that's in their system. I know a lot of people have worried about that the past few years. I just want to give people the peace of mind that if you put yourself in little situations with shedding or things of that nature, don't allow that to take family time away. Family time is going to be so much more important. This
Right.
communication, this talking. So we'll talk about things, to do spiritually and physically here on the plane to cleanse ourselves after dealing with people of all sorts, carrying all things during a time with a lot of sugar.
Yeah, and people are like, "Why are you doing this, during the holidays?" And for me, this is the best time to have some accountability, to make it fun,
Yeah.
but also because we got Halloween and then Thanksgiving and then we're running into Christmas, people tend to eat differently, drink
Yeah.
more, maybe, do all the things that you wouldn't maybe do in a
Yeah.
different month, and I was just requiring some, I like to do things with groups because it's easier for me to do it if I have my own accountability. So this is more for me than anyone else. But I work with a lot of people. And a matter of fact, just got a text here this morning from a lady who was diagnosed with cancer. And we put her on some protocols, and she is just like texting all these pictures. You know, I mean, she's like, so much stuff is coming out of me, and you know, her numbers are getting better for necrosis factor, and all the things, all her levels are coming up in her labs, which is great because, you know, we get to keep the nutrients, you know, instead of them taking that. So that's what we need to keep the body going and to regenerate, you know, but there's a lot more than just the physical. And so I'm glad you brought up the spiritual, but tell us a little bit about your background, and just how you even got into this expert field for exorcism.
It's so funny, and you just mentioned it perfectly, which we'll go into in a moment. Keeping the nutrients. We keep saying parasites, and everyone's like, "What's parasites?" And it's something that is stealing your nutrients. It is as simple as that. Basically, there is a bug in you, and it didn't bring a lunchbox. So how is it eating? It didn't bring a lunchbox, so it's eating either your nutrients that you should be eating, or in many times, it's eating you. Your meat. So we're seeing a lot of things now that we call allergies, but it's more leaky gut. It's, you know, what we call allergy, food allergy wise, a lot of times is just describing, like food is escaping your literal gut or intestines because there's holes in it. How did there become holes in these things? And it's like they're eating you. Like, you really have to understand that. So that's always something to keep in mind. And now, I grew up, both parents of mine are in the medical field. I hated going to school. So I would call my mom, and she literally would pick me up like once or twice a week from school and take me to the office. So I grew up in a medical facility in the back office. I was helping. It was like 2004 when all the files needed to go from physical to like online, a database. So I was doing that like my entire childhood. I was just moving files from, and I saw what my parents saw, and I was like, I will never work in the medical field. I'm never going to be a healer. I'm never doing this. And then I met my husband, and he became a 68. Yeah, he was a healer, and he was a 68 whiskey with the Army National Guard, and I helped him study, and I knew a lot of this stuff, and I was like, okay, send me your whatever you were dealing with that day, the bones, the joints, the blah blah blah, and we would just study over the phone. And I was like, I can't believe you're doing medical, oh my god. And then that taught me a little bit, and then by the time I found out I was working with a company that like really wasn't good, and they were doing money transfers between all the richest people in our state. All states have community foundations, and all these community foundations work with campaign funding, obviously. So it was a campaign year. I remember McCain and Hillary Clinton, you know, red and blue, totally different. But like, they were utilizing money and funds and grants like the same way, and sending money to Haiti to sponsor kids. And it's like, oh, all these little rumors are really matching up with like real stuff I'm dealing with behind the scenes. So I knew I had to get rid of that job. So I put in my 2 weeks, I left. But I also that same week had just been like diagnosed with stage 3 kidney disease. I wasn't holding vitamin D. Like, I wasn't making it. I wasn't holding it. If I did have it, it was I was about to be put on drugs for the rest of my life. And I, at the time, was like, I don't have insurance. I'm leaving in my job that's giving me insurance. So I knew I had friends in the woo-woo community back at the time. And I was like, hey, what would you go to fix this? And I learned all the small little things here and there. Colloidal silver, great one. Carbon products, which is just charcoal. Salts, natural salt, Celtic, Himalayan. Not Himalayan. I like pink salt from the Americas, but whatever. Anyway, I started getting these little pieces of the big puzzle, and I did start incorporating them and trying different things, what did work, what didn't work. And for me, because I was dealing with kidney problems, I have to focus. My main focus is always going to be like do you have enough minerals? Because if you don't have positively charged minerals, then guess what? You're not going to be able to even absorb anything. A lot of people think they're taking stuff. And my master Jeff in my videos were like, it's not what you eat, it's what you absorb. If you don't have enough minerals in you, you're not going to absorb anything you eat. It's just going to go through you. You're going to see it come out the same way it came in. So getting people this can be through food and everything. And I understand people don't trust the food, so they do supplements, sea moss, ionic trace minerals, ocean things, spirulina. There's other things that you can add to your regimen to make sure you are getting enough minerals. And then we do baby steps, and you might try a couple herbs or oxidizers or dog pills, and you'll see what works for you. My thing, Doc, I'm sure you know this, like, people try 1 or 2 things a month. Don't go crazy. Like, don't try 10 new things, because you might be going overboard on 1 or 2 of the items, but you don't know which one you're going overboard. So my whole thing is like, take everything slow. Whatever protocol you decide to do, just go a little bit slower than maybe the protocol says that first month, and then you can take off. But going slow is something that's hard for people who've never detoxed before, especially with like big pharma medicine background, because they're like, oh, I can take like 3 servings of this medicine that my doctor gives me. And I'm like, well, with detox, it fights back. These bugs know they're being killed. Herxheimer reactions, die-off reactions do start happening. And projectile vomiting and like not being able to make it to the bathroom are very big things that could happen. So if you're going to work, if you're going to school, you might want to take it slower, or even start protocol when you get home. So there's little things to know like that I just talk about in our chat on RickyLeaks.com.
Wow.
Awesome. Craig, what you got, Craig? I can see all your faces you're making.
I know. I saw them too. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. So I'm just really fascinated, because I'll be honest, I'm a noob to this. So I've followed you for quite a while, Lexi, and I really find it really fascinating. I'm not the most scientifically minded person. I like, just put on a piece of paper what I need and I'll go get it, sort of thing, But I'm really interested in this issue, because there's so many people with health issues at the moment, but also psychological issues and spiritual issues. And I think what you're saying is they're all related to this issue of parasites. And I'm really fascinated that, yes, okay, the physical side of it, absolutely, as we've just discussed. How does it affect people sort of psychologically, mentally, emotionally? What are they doing, basically?
Okay. So I like to kind of explain people, we have an idea how it's happening in your body. They're eating you, they're taking over. But something that I started noticing early on to bridge the gap of understanding between the mental realm and then the spiritual realm and then the energetic realm, these other realms that we don't like necessarily give attention to. And I started noticing that there's regular science out there that people are noticing when they do scans and stuff. When people have a thought form, their stomach or their heart would light up before their brain lit up. And it could be just like a millisecond. Like It's these high powered computers that we're noticing for the first time, like, oh, the thought form is actually coming from the stomach, the gut, or the heart is lighting up before the synapse is ran to the brain and they're finally getting the thought. So I was like, your brain's not making this thought. The ancient Egyptians, they didn't care about the brain. They kept the internal organs. They kept the heart and the gut and the liver and stuff like that. So I started realizing, I was like, okay, something's making our thoughts for us. And then anyone right now could go onto a good browser and look up parasites cause us to think certain things. And this could be suicidal thoughts, which I love my kitties, but they're the ones that are detoxing most in the house. All animals carry Toxoplasmosis gondii, and it's a single cell organism. It doesn't even look like a worm. You don't even ever see it. It's tiny, but it has the ability to cause people to want to walk into traffic. I talked to one of my girlfriends before cleansing. She was pregnant and she was like, I literally wanted to walk into traffic. And I hear these things all the time where it's like, you're not thinking that. Something is telling you to do it. And then you read up on Toxoplasmosis gondii, and it's the cat parasite because the cat they go around in circles every night to hunt. So basically they'll pee on a tree, a mouse, a rat, a bird, whatever, will walk into the urine, and they will now have Toxoplasmosis gondii parasite, and it will go to the mouse's brain, and it'll make the mouse kill itself in that general area, so that 2-3 hours later, when the cat comes around, there's a dead little mouse. And she's like, okay, that's how they hunt. It's like a really lazy way of hunting, but very smart.
Wow.
But they use these animals for human. They test on these animals to see if things will work on humans. So when we have suicidal thoughts, I always tell people you're going to want to do minerals and some kind of herb or oxidizer that cleanses you, because this will get you out of that depression, the depression that is not yours. It's something else. And every doc, I know, you know, cancer patients, this depression's a really, really big thing. And I don't love that when people get cancer, the first they are put on antidepressants, because this is what people need to feel. Like, they need to get rid of the depression, which means you briefly need to feel it. And usually there's mommy and daddy trauma or ancestral trauma that comes up when you're getting rid of it. And we're big into like, don't subdue these sad feelings. Whatever comes up during cleanse, yes, you're going to be getting breakouts on the face. You're going to be having Herxheimer reactions and literally purging stuff. But that goes with like emotions too. You'll start getting random. A lot of the easiest thing everyone can like notice is, oh my God, I have a heartbreak from when I was 16 or 18 years old of my first puppy love. I haven't thought about that person in 30 years, 40 years. Why am I thinking and feeling this heartbreak of like my first love? And this is why you're removing, well, you're doing so much when you're detoxing, but you're literally removing bugs that have been nestled into tissue for so long. And now we look at heartbreak syndrome. Your muscle tissue of your heart will actually fissure, and you can like look it up, heartbreak syndrome. And when we're really, really sad, when we go through a really traumatic event, your body breaks, and then a bug goes into that new wound, and then you eventually heal over it. So years later, you still have a dead bug, hopefully it's dead, and eggs in that womb that happened, goodness forbid, who knows how long ago. So you're pulling stuff out and you're literally opening old wounds. So I want people to know this when you're purging stuff and when you get sad about stuff. It's not like you have to mourn it the same way you did then. You just let it go, and you probably won't even remember it tomorrow. So keep that in mind when you're getting rid of stuff. It does happen. And then this goes into your thoughts and your feeling about yourself and your self-worth and the energetic realm. What are you telling yourself? Did you get the cancer diagnosis and you were like, oh, great, at least now I know what to like? Did you channel your thoughts into fear? Or did you go, okay, we can work on this. This is the first time now that I have a diagnosis. Maybe I can get some of that dog dewormer from my doctor's office. Maybe they'll be cool enough to work with me there. Maybe I'll try some of this herbs and supplements out there that people are talking about. And they take this as an opportunity to grow, or it ruins their lives. They can't handle that diagnosis and they think that they've already died. They hear you have cancer. They're like, oh, I'm dead. Like, you've already given up. So keeping your mind when you do realize you are sick, any kind of sickness, and realizing you're not sick, you're just healing from it. You just realize, oh, I have something to heal from now. I'm not sick. I'm not suffering with cancer. I'm healing from cancer. And these little tiny things will shift your energetics of the communication between the spiritual realm and you physically. And then we get into the spiritual stuff. I tell people, have faith in something bigger than you. I have worked with people who we tried everything, literally everything in the book, every herb that tends to work, all the seeds that tend to work, the big pharma stuff that's coming out now, like things that I know work for anyone else just wasn't working for these people. And they had a hatred for their mom. They did not believe in God. And I'm like, oh, okay. and you try and talk them through it, but you can only work with them so much. It's up to the individual if they're willing to get rid of this bitterness, this anger, this hatred. If you don't get rid of the anger, bitterness, and hatred, you're never going to get rid of the bugs. I've seen people get rid of every single cancer parasite and be free, but a year or two later, they didn't work on the reason they got cancer in the first place, which is usually like bitterness and hatred or grief, extreme grief. And this is really sad. I do work with a lot of moms who lost children, and then sure enough, their body just starts shutting down because they're like, oh, I lost my baby. Like there's nothing else to live for. So cancer starts coming. Yeah.
We had a guy last night, we just found out had passed, and his son just passed like maybe 2 months ago. So not just women, men, just broken heart and sad. And you mentioned the electronics. What I've seen in our practice is when people have parasites, not only is there pair of sights, like multiple vision and lack of clarity and or confusion and not able to make decisions easily. But we've also seen that when we did get people cleaned up, that their patterns changed as far as, people in their life, who they were coming, job opportunities, different things like that, because electronically, we have our own projection, and then we, based on what we think, what we feel, what we're talking about, then our organs also have that projection, our cells have a projection, everything goes out in its code. So if you have a weak liver because of whatever, whether it's parasites or something else, maybe you drink too much or whatever, then that shows a weakness in the field. It's like a tear in the field where entities 100%. Can come in at that number. So entities are like 25. When they attach, that can also mess up with, what you decide or what you're feeling about yourself. But
you attract what you your I am statements, what your boundaries are. Like the people is there anyone using you? Are you in a bad relationship? I can't tell you how many times it happened to us too, in our household, but I can't tell you how many times people get started on cleanse and the divorce comes. If you don't cleanse together, if you and hubby or you and roommate don't cleanse together, especially sexual partners, or families, basically, you're sharing bugs. So if the wife kills all of her bugs that she had and the husband hasn't killed his bugs, now there's tension. So I tell couples, you're going to want to cleanse together. And I did cleanse. Maybe I started 4 months before my husband. And when he got out of the military, and I was like, all right, let's reverse all those vaccines that you got in the military. And we started slowly. And also you're like, I don't want to touch you. I don't want to kiss you. I don't want to lay with you. I'm clean. You're not. So you do want to start cleaning together. But it's weird because both in me and my personal life, I started colloidal silver and zeolite and spirulina when me and my husband got married. And the reaction between me and family changed, the dichotomy, and how I acted with certain people I used to hang out with 24/7, it started not matching up eye to eye. And then when I started on the heavier stuff, straight up, the family, the close friends repelled, oh my gosh. And I swear my husband, his first sip of chlorine dioxide, someone in his close circle went off on him, calling him a Nazi, because we're talking about cures. And it's in energetics, they know you're out to kill parasites. When you do your first, when I consider oxidizers in water, which are hydrogen peroxide, ozone, chlorine dioxide, methylene blue, 2 of which your body naturally makes. Vitamin C turns into hydrogen peroxide. Stomach acid is HCl. So whenever you have salt, that naturally forms chlorine dioxide, both of which kill every parasite. You might need to add stuff to get the biofilm, which is why I love some of these other things so much that are becoming big. But basically, these 2 things are cleansing water. That's a baptism. That is the definition of a baptism. So it's interesting to see people. It's when you start cleaning yourself, you start putting up boundaries, and it's almost like you're doing it for the detox, but it turns into, like you said, it turns into more. You're everything about your schedule kind of shifts and the way you see things. And you did have parasites. Para is hindered vision. So if you have hindered sight, you legitimately can't see a different life than the way you're living. So when you get rid of the parasites, like the options become limitless. Go on.
Sorry, just so many things are coming to my mind now. So like, I've got loads of questions. But like, so I know I know several people. I mean, that like, we talk a lot about, the spiritual awakening going on, and people are learning about things like law of attraction and, our inherent power, or this kind of thing. And I've seen a lot of, or so say several people go through this and have this kind of like realization, like, wow, we're powerful. We manifest, we create. And not long after, they fall right back into the old pattern of powerlessness again. And they're on this continual cycle of like, we're powerful. Oh, we're weak and we can't do anything. My life's miserable. And then they'll just this constant, walk around the mountain, so to speak. I'm thinking, could this be parasite related? Is that what
yes.
we're saying?
This is something that we cover all the time we do full moon videos that are usually about anti-parasitics. We've been doing it for 3 years, since 2020, and my whole tribe. And something we tell each other is like, okay, you did it once, now do it again. And I have people going, okay, I've been having this feeling for 4 months. And I'm like, I have that feeling for 80 months because I've been doing this for 80 full moons. So yeah, your tummy's going to rumble. That's just a new part of your life. Your tummy is going to be kicked into full gear, and rumbling isn't bad. If you look up like rumbling, the sound, there's this whole thing into what sounds the gut makes when it's digesting, and rumbling is actually one of the good things, meaning it's working. So people's bodies are coming online and they're doing things they've never done before, and people are freaking out. I'm like, it's actually something that you're going to deal with forever. So people go into detox thinking it's a one-time done thing. Or I talk to people and they're like, I did a detox 6 years ago. I'm like perfectly clean, because they saw all those bugs come out of them. And it's like, what you guys don't realize is, we're going to get into the energetics and stuff, but the physical, like these bugs lay eggs, and these eggs can stay eggs for years, months, years. So like, yeah, you got rid of all your bugs, but you didn't get rid of all their eggs. And some of the eggs are like 20% of all of them are like indestructible, and nothing kills them until they're hatched. Like literally, I call them dragon eggs, because they can withstand heat of 4,000 degrees. No oxidizers, nothing will break through them, but you will see a lot of eggs. Like there's a lot of squishy eggs that come out, but there's some eggs that they stay in you and they're like Velcro on you. So if these are just like hanging around your body, they're going to hatch later. It could be 3 months after you cleansed. It could be years. I personally think this is why women of my age are showing autism in their late 20s, early 30s, whereas the boys of our generation were told they had autism when they were like 5 or 6, because I think it has something to do with eggs for women, like not hatching until later on in life, and like eggs in men hatched earlier. I'm the only one who's ever said that, but I have a feeling it has something to do with that. So these eggs can like last a long time, and you can even look up clinicals for that. But basically, if you haven't changed your ways, if you haven't gotten rid of that parasite that you call a boyfriend or girlfriend, if you haven't gotten rid of parasitic behaviors, it could be addiction, it could be whatever the job you have, then the parasites also might come back, because you basically put up boundaries and you broke your own vows, you broke your own boundaries. So you will get hit again and tested again right when you level up. And my master Jeff always says, new level, new devil. You're going to be tested. It's not a one and done thing. It's usually at least 3 months, and then you can take a little break, but there'll always be maintenance. You'll always have to kind of do this every few months, because look at the lines in the sky. Look at Bill Gates owning 90% of the farmland. Look at people with, like, in different countries, our organic produce is made, and you can find videos of them saying it's not organic. We just have to use like clean water, organic water, and it can be called organic. Like, you guys don't even know what organic means. And it's like, oh my gosh. So like everyone thinks they're doing the right thing, but we're just constantly bringing in toxins. So keep it up, keep maintenance, keep checking in with yourself spiritually, faith-wise, keep looking at your friends and being like, okay, I went to their opening of their businesses. I promoted them. Did they give me the same in return? Is it a parasitic relationship there? Things of this nature that are breaking your boundaries, your new boundaries. So you will be tested, and you will have to, I tell everyone to journal. Just keep journaling everything. Journal things that help you stay strong, get new friends that you want to be like, get new friends in your circle, which is really hard right now because so many people are being told to hate each other, even within our own communities. So look past that. Not everything is a psyop. The only psyop is trying to keep us segregated, and fight against that as much as you can. That's also why I went to detox, because in 2016, when I realized out about all this spiritual war, and I realized, okay, this is literally the serpent in the garden, there's 6 million parasites. There's only 3,000 snakes. Legitimately, serpent means parasite more than snakes. Parasites, we know, can epigenetically change a human. I've done stuff into antigens, which is parasitic leftover waste, calcifies our DNA. So a lot of this stuff is just uncalcifying stuff. That's why so much stuff that's used for arthritis is anti-parasitic, because it's removing calcification, which also removes calcification from any pineal glands or DNA. So when we're talking about like, oh, we have 22 strands of DNA, but only 2 are working. Well, if you decalcify them, your other strands of DNA will start to work. And this goes into it's physical, your physical body, but what is DNA? We don't even know. We know DNA holds data. So you can go to your ancestors, and a log of everything that they did, very much like code, is kept. So if your ancestors did something shitty, like Dwight Eisenhower brought in vaccines, cool, here's how you reverse vaccines.
Can you not say that word, please?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So there's always ways around it. Yes.
Z-Y, that one too. Yes.
Okay. Jabs.
Yeah.
So
thing.
Just yeah. I just want to be able to keep this on the channel.
Yes. I haven't worked on YouTube in so long, so I'm sorry. But yeah. We can reverse everything, and everything's in your system, and you're like, oh, it's easy to reverse. And then everyone is related to someone. That's another thing. Like, we're all, especially Americans, we're a melting pot of the world. And like, the world got rid of so many of it. It happened several different ways, but the world gave us a lot of colonists from all over. And because of that, I think America is healing together, and it's going to be the grossest over here, and it's going to be the most dark looking, because we are a melting pot, and we're also a huge, huge nation. So the amount of ancestral trauma that is being worked through, even just through truth, like telling people truth and people hearing truth and people understanding truth for the first time, that's healing in of itself. And even if most of the people I talked to were like Bernie bros in 2016, and they've totally waken up and they've totally changed their ways, but everyone is kind of, well, I'm no longer a liberal. My liberal friends don't get me, and my conservative friends are a little bit too conservative, and they, judge me because I was liberal. So there's all these misplaced people who I think are really, really quietly watching all of us who are brave enough to have these little talks out in the open. I think there's a lot of people just healing from watching all of us have these talks and share ideas, even if it's different than theirs.
Yes, and for those of you in the comments, I'm trying to find the link. I know you're saying that the link doesn't work. I'm looking for the link, but keep talking. Go ahead.
What's today's date? I heard somewhere in the UK that on November 7th is like a demon exorcism day, which I think is interesting because it is 7 days after several different pagan, holidays of the thinning of the veil. and 7 is a completion number. So I think it's interesting, like really utilize this time frame. And I mean, the gunpowder plot in and of itself, bonfire day in and of itself, is a cleansing. It was a plan that was supposed to cleanse, and it didn't go according to plan back then. But there are so many people with that blood that are still allowed to utilize this week, 3 days from now, to do a worldwide cleansing. And that does go into parasitic governments. The biggest parasite any of us have to deal with is our government. They're taking how much in taxes? It's absolutely ridiculous. No one should be working 40-hour work weeks. I am very against 40.
I agree. Like you say, they tax you on money that's been taxed 3 times already, and it's horrendous. I was only thinking about that the other day, but I mean, with everything that's going on globally, all the chaos and the triggering and the fact that people are literally losing their minds over politics and social issues and things. I'm of the opinion that this is it's as uncomfortable and as messy as it is, it's actually a positive thing, because I guess it's a good way to call it. It is like a global exorcism of sorts.
Yeah.
Is whatever's happening energetically, is this having an effect on these things? As we make positive choices and our vibration shifts as a result, does that have an effect on them?
I've already seen it happening. I do believe in the 100 monkey effect. And I do believe the first way showers who were having to do this 15 years ago, when in 2011, I think the injections started having insect larvae and metals really, really bad. That's when they went up, and we started seeing it in children immediately. So you had people back then. I was pro-vaccine at that point. My husband was giving vaccines. He was a 68 whiskey.
V. You guys.
Oh my God.
I'm not going to be able to put this up on YouTube. I'm just letting people know, if you don't find it, please go to Rumble or somewhere else, because I'm going to have to immediately take it down. But
all my stuff is on Rumble. I can't stay on YouTube.
Even that in itself just says what a crazy situation we're in, where we have to do that. It's ridiculous. And that is parasitic, isn't it? The whole system.
And feeding into it is parasitic as well. It's all horrible. It's all part of the machine. And it's the only way, like I said, truth will prevail. Truth trumps everything, because even if you do we've all had those videos taken down. The reason Dr. Sharnael is having this fear is like her content is being taken away. Her livelihood is being taken away. But when all this is done, we can go, hey, our human rights, our First Amendment rights were violated. I'm a part of a lawsuit. Here's something that was taken away from me. I was kicked off of Twitter. So that's a huge First Amendment no. Like, you cannot shut me up there. So even when you do get taken down by the man, these parasites, hold on to that, put it in your back pocket for one day, and you'll be able to utilize it, and it will be worth something, because what they're doing to us is stuff that the what is it called? After World War II, they had to make rules. It was a convention. You can't do this.
Geneva Convention.
Yeah. So like, this is stuff that Geneva couldn't even imagine happening, basically. So that's where we're at. And bring in God, the whole armor of God, the salt, the carbon. These are all things that you've seen in either the spiritual faith realm or even the pagan witchy realm. And they have real scientific reasons of actually working. Salt is amazing, and salt does get rid of spirits. It's an ionic positive mineral. It's a positive ion. So a lot of these like minerals that the bugs are taking from us are positive ions: magnesium, potassium, sodium, iodine, copper, all these things, boron, I love. And it kind of like, if it's too much, it also parasitically burns them. And I also want people to realize, and maybe even take a quick look at electrical manuals, like all the electricians in the world. They have to deal with parasitic entities taking their wires. Like, we have to deal with you have to ground electricity. So how many people are out there not grounded because they have an open root chakra or sacral chakra that they're not paying attention to? And this goes into not sexual deviance, but guilt about sexual deviance, and guilt about maybe a miscarriage, guilt about an abortion, guilt about being molested by someone when you were a kid, guilt. This is attacking your reproductive organs and the energetic imprint, the chakra that belongs to them. So if you have this broken, then guess what? You're not going to be able to ground. And if we're talking about energies, parasitic energies, you need to ground and then have enough ionic positive minerals and then have insulation. I know a lot of people in the community, I go between wearing like a size 6 and a size 10. Like if it's a full moon, I'm on a 10 because I do bloat. I do have a compromised kidney from the beginning of this. So I have to be really careful with minerals. So I have to go like probably do more minerals than like the normal person. Otherwise I do bloat. But naturally I am thick and I do have healthy fats. And there's a difference between healthy fats and not healthy fats. And why this is a little bit important is when I work with people who, let's say, are on a gluten-free diet or a certain diet that makes them be very, very skinny, the body I want, the body I grew up wanting, these are the people that aren't able to hold the light, because what do we know about electricity? You have to have a little bit of insulation, healthy insulation, to funnel the electricity into the grounded unit. You never just open a wall and see metal wires. You see insulation covering wires. So I did become really, really skinny. When you're on 3 months of chlorine dioxide, you're going to be seeing like muscle. I got a 6-pack because you're feeding your muscles oxygen. Like if you're doing chlorine dioxide daily, you're going to be like toned. But if you step away for a little bit, don't be mad if you do gain back healthy fats. And of course, never go back to processed foods or anything like that. But if you do have the butters or the lards or the tallow or the avocado in your diet, then don't see size as an indicator of how healthy you are. Because I've seen very skinny people who by large are not that healthy because they're not holding light. They have parasites eating their nutrients, which is why they're skinny. They have a broken lower chakra, which means they can't harness their light. So don't go off of like complete beauty standards as health.
Yeah, and what is a beauty standard, really? You know.
I know.
Who says what's beautiful? Do you know what I mean? Surely it's in the eye of the beholder. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Well, we had a few questions. Someone was asking about the full moon. I know the answer, but I'm going to see if you can answer that for us as the expert.
Definitely. Well, I want to ask you, did you as a doctor notice more people coming with just weird little things on the full moon? Or just if you've ever worked in an ER, like have you seen how crazy the medical world is on it? Everyone knows. Every nurse knows.
I always tell people, if you have to have a surgery or anything, never schedule it during that time, because there'll be less people who show up for work, and there'll be chaos for the people who are there, just not because they're shorthanded, but also just all the mind stuff. And but go ahead.
My best friend is an RN, and ever since 2020, she didn't want to work, obviously, in the field. So she works with this little company that, like, if one of the Christian hospitals needs people, they'll call her. So she's like on standby, and it's always just the full moons. It's always just the 3 days around the full moons that she gets called. And it's a very real thing. Basically what's happening is the parasites, most of the parasites come out and copulate, breed, and eat during the full moon. And when they're not in your stomach, they are traveling your biofilm, which is like this disgusting black inner tube of a bike that surrounds the inside of your intestines. This is like a parasite apartment complex. It's disgusting. So normally for like most of the month, the parasites are in your biofilm, but for the full moon, and a couple parasites do the new moon as well, but for the full moon, the biofilm apartment complex opens, and hundreds of thousands of teeny tiny little bugs are now introduced to your system. And We think that it's just limited to the intestinal tract. And yes, you will see a bunch of stuff coming out of your intestinal tract, but they can also, it's really weird. If you look up pathogens being able to get from the GI tract to the endocrine system, then, and they can, it's weird. There's little ways that they can get into your hormones. So all these people have thyroid issues, and it's still a gut issue because these little gut parasites can get into your endocrine fluids, and it's so gross. And then you start taking whatever, your cleansed water, your herbs, your dog deworm or whatever, you start taking it, and then all the bugs know you're killing them. So they all try to rush either really deep in your tissue, which I take stuff that goes to the tissue. That's not a big deal for me. But they also go to your sinuses. So I tell everybody, if you're going to do this, do not be afraid. 90% of the people get sinus infections at some point during cleanse because all the bugs go to your sinuses because there's no blood in your sinus cavity. So if you do start feeling that headache and it's just pressure and you start sounding weird, have X Clear, a nasal spray, colloidal silver nose spray, a neti pot with salt or whatever. That's the only way to kill those bugs. The second the bugs have gone here, it doesn't matter how much is in your system. You need to deluge. You need to flush. You need to force the bugs out. They're not going to die with any medicine the second they're in your sinuses. So a lot of people get these sinus infections during the full moon. That's something to keep an eye out for.
Someone's asking or brought up alcohol. How much of a factor is that with you?
It's sugar. I mean, it's sugar. It's also a parasitic sugar on top of that. I'm not someone who's like, give up everything to start cleansing because people will be like, oh, I'll start cleansing in 6 months. I have a lot of holiday activities the next 3 months. I'm not going to start. No, that's not a reason to stop, not do cleanse. So I'm very much like, if you drink, go home and take an oxidizer or take like an oxidizer before going out. So if you do have some of that sugar liquid, then you're killing it with the anti-parasitic. Now, there are a couple things. There's liquors that are really tinctures. For example, absinthe. Everyone knows the story of how, oh, they made absinthe illegal. No. Okay, let's talk about absinthe. Absinthe has star of anise and wormwood in it, and it's a tincture. So ironically, if people, when the tuberculosis TB outbreak was happening, if those people were to drink absinthe, they would have gotten rid of their TB. So what happened? They made absinthe illegal, right? When tuberculosis was like at a peak, where that was actually an alcohol that was more of a tincture that would have killed a shot a night, would have like made the people not die from TB. So it's interesting. This is a game that's been playing a long time. They've always gotten really, really bad raps, but anything in excess is horrible. I'm not telling anyone to stop. I'd rather you just get started in some capacity than stop everything, even though I would like you to stop bringing in the sugars. Work with it. If you're going to drink the wine, at least make sure you have your herbs so you're killing the bugs as well that night.
Someone was asking about, do they remain after a colonoscopy?
Okay, great question. So the biggest thing I hear, the biggest thing I hear with people going, I don't have any parasites. First of all, they think that parasites are just in their intestines. So tell me why are hospitals checking for people in their colon anytime but that week of the full moon? Because what we just learned, the parasites aren't just freely roaming that time. They go into the biofilm. So if you deluge the area of any parasites, then first of all, how many parasites did you get rid of in the colonic? They do before the colonoscopy. A lot of people love colonics. I work with a little girl down the street at a colonic place. Love my colon, and I only go there like 3 times a year because I don't want to overdo it. It could actually hurt you if you do it too much. But this is like a deluge. If you just did a really big parasite cleanse, and if you do a colonic after, you might see that black inner tube biofilm come out like faster than it would have if you were just doing other cleanses. So I do like it from certain areas, but sometimes it'll go the opposite way. But there are cancer survivors who basically just got like 6 colonics in a row and their cancer went away because it's flushing them out. So this colonic is being done before a colonoscopy, which means they flushed you out of any bugs that are in your system, and then they shove up the light going, look, there's no bugs here. And if they do see a bug, they call it a polyp. Now look up polyp masquerading as parasite, or parasites masquerading as polyps. Those polyps they see are parasites. They're just calling it a polyp. And they're like, okay. So when they do see a parasite, they still don't tell you it's a parasite. And then I've talked in front of other medical providers, the old school ones who like won't listen to any of this. And they're like, if there were parasites in your liver, we would see them on scans, on CTs. And I'm like, you do see them on scans and you call them tumors. Oh, you have a tumor the size of a golf ball we need to remove. And they go remove your big ass bug. That's what it was. It's crazy, the disinformation that when you start bringing this up to like normal MDs that were taught, you know, pay for the big brands, these big pharmaceutical schools are paying for what you give out. So they're not going to keep getting the money from those pharmaceuticals, usually antidepressants, if you keep your cancer. So they're not going to tell you these things, which is really, really sad that people aren't even getting this information. And they really believe their doctor saying you don't have any parasites when they checked mid-month after a colonic and they did see parasites, but they called it a tumor or a polyp. So.
Something I wanted to ask again, because we're getting close to the hour now. I've seen a lot of people, certainly over the past few years, have autoimmune disease manifest. A lot of it. Now, I put it down to, I originally thought, is it something electronic, you know, with all the electronics we have now, you know, and the I don't want to say it, but, you know, the G's and all that, 4, 5s. And I'm wondering if people are reacting. I mean, I've literally, you know, because I've been in an office full of computers and,
I know,
you know, phones, and I feel like I've got a virus, you know, when I'm in there. And when I come out, get some fresh air, it goes. I'm like, this is crazy. You know, I feel like I've got like a temperature. I hate going in those rooms. But yeah, like I say, a lot of people have been getting or diagnosed with autoimmune diseases. So that, you know, things like rheumatoid arthritis, that sort of thing. And I'm wondering if there is something parasitic going on there.
100%. 100.
Yeah.
There's a couple different ways I see autoimmune. The main thing with autoimmune is they're shutting off your immune system. Yes, I tell everyone, everything we're talking about, all these little whatever protocol you've heard, it doesn't matter. We shouldn't need it in a perfect world. In a perfect world, I want everyone to check out white blood cells eating parasite. In a perfect world, your white blood cells will see a parasite and attack it and eat it, and it won't be a problem in a perfect world. But what's happening, and it's taken decades, at least heavy in the late 80s, they started putting heavy metals in you. Well, your white blood cells depend, your immune system depends on this like GPS map of your body. And that map is no longer working if it has aluminum in it because it messes with the signals. So what I've learned is there's a couple different ways this is like scientifically said and stated. It's said that the bugs are putting metal when they find metal in you. You can look up how we got metal in you. But when they find one of these little pieces, they put it on their bodies. And they're basically making themselves an invisible shield to your immune system like radar. And they can go about eating your intestines, creating holes so that when you eat wheat, you have a flare up. And everyone's like, oh, I'm allergic to wheat. No, you have a hole that you have a bug that's eating you. That's really what it's indicative of. But your immune system isn't noticing it. It isn't catching on. So I've noticed when people start getting enough of the positive ionic minerals, this alone helps that GPS of the immune system get so much better. So I've seen just bringing in sea moss, salt water, minerals, electrolytes to those autoimmune people, a huge difference already happens just there. And then you can slowly start killing the bugs that are wearing this heavy metal. That's why heavy metal and parasite cleanses go so hand in hand, very hand in hand. But so that's like the mainstream reason that why it's happening. But if anyone has seen The Matrix, you know that the bugs themselves were robots. You know that the bugs themselves were metal. You know that the bugs are what was causing everything. So Neo had to remove his metal stomach bug in order to wake up. So I'm saying I don't think all the bugs are real. If you look at MIT and look at their robotics department, they have made a horseshoe. It looks like a black hair parasite. It looks like a big black horsehair parasite, but it's a robot. And they told us how amazing it was going to be for surgeons to utilize this robot to go into the arteries and to open. No, guess what else it can do? We already know MIT's been making these bugs. I was like 12 years old when I heard that. So what have they made sense kind of thing? And then that goes into when you're around technology and these rooms that have a lot of EMF and a lot of all that stuff, can that little bug, that carbon bug, be taken over and actually made to do stuff? So that's what we have to kind of look at. They're not all flesh and blood bugs.
Interesting. Very interesting. Thank you.
Yes. Can you go into explain about what the difference is between fungus, candida, and parasites and biofilm? And that's the last question. I know we got to go. I hope you could stay a couple more minutes, but definitely. I've got a couple people who are texting me and sending me messages saying, tell her to talk about biofilm. The biofilm.
Okay, so I noticed the biofilm coming out after I started doing chlorine dioxide with DMSO. A lot of people like chlorine dioxide or hydrogen peroxide with EDTA.
And explain what biofilm is.
Oh, okay. So I don't know what the material is that makes it up. I've never even thought about that. There's two types of biofilms that I talk about and that I think of. One is like the black inner tube tire, and you will see this coming out of you. A lot of people get it it looks like in a baby's umbilical cord when it comes out of you. And it's thick, it's rubbery, and it holds and protects the bugs. Nothing can get in it. It's literally like rubber. It's very thick and disgusting. And then there's a biofilm that I think of for when I think of cancer. Each cancer bug, the bug itself isn't hard to kill, but this mucus it surrounds itself in.
Slimy stuff.
It's slimy, it's sticky, and that also goes into candida. If anyone has ever seen candida pictures, when it comes out of you, it sticks to everything, and a lot of fungi are like this as well. And what it travels in is just sticky. Nothing can get through it. It's its own little atmosphere around the bug, protecting the bug. And that's why cancer is so hard to get rid of, because getting past this biofilm is what has always made it be like incurable. So a lot of things, a lot of protocols that will cure like 90% of diseases out there, you usually need to add a little bit of something else to get this biofilm. And I think febendazole is having a good thing with that. I'm sorry, it's one of the dog dewormers. And then I know DMSO, which is a pine product, melts this. I know EDTA does something similar. So you sometimes and I tell people, don't start off with that heavy duty. I want you to clear yourself out of some of these bugs before you go in with these heavy duty things, killing the biofilm. I don't want you to do like the biofilm removers until at least like the second or third month, because I want you to just first do a quick clean, get castor oil in you, which will start moving any debris that's been stuck in your stomach for years. And it'll slowly push that out, slowly bring in your minerals daily. That with castor oil is going to almost work like an internal enema and remove any blockages. And then you'll kill a bunch of bugs just doing that. You slowly bring in stuff. And then by the time you bring in these heavy hitters that remove and dissolve and melt the biofilm, that allows you to get to the bugs inside of it or removes it from your system entirely, that's when those are heavy duty hitters. So I usually see people sending me the candida pictures around month 3 in their toilet. And that's another thing. A lot of people don't know they have candida. No, like they had no symptoms of it, nothing. Their doctor never said it, and they're sending me pictures of it in their toilet. So I just want to throw that out there. Like, I've seen it come from people who do not think they have it. Fungi, that one's a hard one because there's some fungi that helps humans, but even those fungi are bad and parasitic to like other animals, but they're good for us. And then there's some that are just mold. And I think a house with mold in it is what people call haunted houses. They cover it in X-Files really well. I think people go into a haunted house, they breathe in mold, the mold parasite goes to their brain, and they start hearing stuff and seeing stuff. And that's why they're never the same leaving the house. I think that's what an actual haunted house is mold.
Interesting.
Yes. Golly, you're packed with information. So how can people find you?
Thank you. RickyLeaks.com. I'm doing a bunch of file transfers. I just did an entire 3 or 4 episode series for Halloween. Go check that out. Every month I put out a full moon video with my Master Jeff or husband. And my husband and Master Jeff today are putting out a Veterans Day episode. So we're always putting stuff out. It's usually on Rumble, but I'm posting everything in RickyLeaks.com.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, you're awesome.
Thank you.
That was a lot of information. Again, that's going to be one to listen to again. But no, thank you so much for coming on. That was tremendous. I've learned loads.
Yes, and if you guys are interested in joining us on our cleanse, like I said, it starts in 5 days. It's 21 days. It takes 21 days to break a habit, but also it's 21 days in this protocol and we do several rounds because the first round we get like the alive guys and whatever, and we have an exit program. But then also after the 21 days, there's still eggs in there. So we want to wait for them to hatch. We wait 7 days. We start over. We do a new round, and we're going to have a lot of tips and stuff. I might have to get Lexie in that group and maybe do a quick interview during the 21 days if you're up for it, and just kind of pop in. But yes, go to the website. You can find me there, and drsharnael.com. There should be links here to get on the specific newsletter for the campaign and or whatever products. But we'd love to have you guys join us in this journey and see what happens. Craig, how can we find you?
Usual socials, Facebook, Craig Martin Walker. I keep saying this, but I've got 2 profiles. One I use for other things, which is just Craig Walker. Click the Craig Martin Walker one because I get loads of friend requests on the other one. Yeah, I've got a meditation music channel. I like frequency music. Craig W. Ascension Meditation. I'm in a band called Nth Ascension. Yeah, just hit me up, and I like to talk to people. That's where it's at.
Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, love you guys so much. And thank you again. And thank you all our members who've been so helpful to keep this going for us. And we will see you next week. We are here every Thursday at noon. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.